So as Mary mentioned, we're developing a more complete website. And so the website that we've launched today, which is creativestatenorthwest.com, that's just a beta site. That's just to have up there as a testing site so that we can gather all the information in one place for you. So the information on it is very straightforward. And I'm going to take you through that today and show you how you would go about the registration process. As I said, just bear with us while we're redesigning it, because it really is just so that we can have something in place while we build the complete site. So if you, in terms of making your application, we've tried to make it as simple as possible. You're going to be completing one application form, which is written in Word format. You can download that from the website, complete it and email it back into us. And really that's as straightforward as it is. I don't know if you can hear me if I'm down here, probably not. So when you go through the website, you'll see on the opening page these sections along the top. So obviously you've got your welcome section. The news section is one where, as Mary mentioned, we are operating on the website. We're also operating on Facebook, on Twitter and on LinkedIn. And one of the benefits we hope there will be, particularly for creatives, is that we can use those resources as well as the news resource to publish information outside of the 4CNW programme. So we're going to be actively looking for opportunities for creatives that you can apply for, other grants, other mentoring schemes, other events that you might be interested in attending. So I would just encourage you to, engage with whatever platform is more comfortable for you. There's an email sign up, there's a Facebook page, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the news section on the website. And do feed back to us if there's things that you come across that you think other creatives might benefit from, and just engage with us on whatever platform you can. There's a little bit of information here about us, which Mary's gone through, but when you're registering, you just go straight through to the 4CNW page, and you can see here the registration will pop up, the creative criteria, the industry criteria, which is not yet complete, and they're having their discovery session next month, and then the frequently asked questions. So what I'll do is I'll start by taking you into the criteria, just to talk you through that. They're very straightforward again. So in order to apply for the 4CNW programme, you have to fulfil each of these criteria, and they're very straightforward. So you need to be a creative business, obviously. You have to have your business address in one of the listed counties. You have to be able to demonstrate a track record of working successfully in a collaborative environment. So really what we're looking for here is your ability to either collaborate with other creatives or to collaborate with industries outside of your own, which is something you'll have all done in your sort of day-to-day work, but it's just an opportunity for us to capture that. You also need to be able to offer a creative service to client industries. And one thing I'll touch on again, as part of this project, it's an opportunity for you to explore new skill sets that you might have and might not have had an opportunity to offer. So I think Mary might have cited this in her examples. If you're a theatre practitioner, let's say, and you want to work on a team building exercise with a company and you think that's something that you could offer, or that if you're a performer and you think you can help someone develop a sales pitch, maybe that's a skill set that you're not offering right now. There's an opportunity for you to do that as part of this project. You do also have to be in possession of an up-to-date tax clearance cert by the end of August in 2012, but that applies equally to sole traders or to companies, so this is open to sole traders. So if you fulfill all of those criteria, you go through to the registration. And on the registration page, you can have a read through it, but here is a link for you to download a Word document. I was going to open the Word document, and this is the registration form. Now, Mary and I will be here to take questions on this. We might be a little tight after this session because we're keen to get going with the speed pitching workshop, but we will take some questions after this, and we will be here afterwards and can take detailed questions, through Twitter and Facebook and all of the other platforms as well. So I'm afraid it's not rendering very well for me on here, but the different sections. The first section is a straightforward company details section. So something that you'll be used to. It's looking for your name, your company and organisation name, your contact email address. And just to look out for the pieces that are in green, as Mary had mentioned, your application for the creative directory is also your application for the voucher scheme, and the listing on the directory will be made public. So to think about the contact email address, you might want one contact email address that will be available publicly for clients to find you. You might want a different contact email address for yourselves personally. So just to give that some consideration and enter those in here. Any of the entries that have an asterisk are mandatory and you have to complete them. And then you go through and just mark with an X which county you are in, which your business address is in. Again, add your contact telephone number, making sure you're comfortable with that being one that's publicly available. Because the Creative Directory, as Mary has said, will work for people outside of the voucher scheme. So what we're wanting to do is promote a directory whereby any business, any client, if they're looking for a directory of creatives in the Northwest, they can use that as a quick way to find you and to find out about your business and hopefully to offer you work. We're looking for a company website if you have one, company Facebook page and Twitter also, and the year you commenced trading. So for the purposes of a sole trader, that could be the year that if you adopted a company name or the year that you started working in that way. So just to list that year for us. We're also looking for the number of employees, and again, that's not a criteria as such, it's just an assessment so that we know what the makeup of the creative industries are. It would seem from a lot of the research, I know the WDC carried out research, that there are an awful lot of sole traders, and we do expect that. So this is just a way for us to get a sense of the size of the companies involved. And it will also help us better match you with the particular industries and what their needs are. Then the next section looks at the creative services. So what we're trying to capture here is what sectors you belong to. Now this is not an exhaustive list, and you'll see that in the FAQs. There is an opportunity if you feel you're a creative business, and we used an EU definition for this, but if you feel you're a creative business and you don't see your business listed here, there is an other category and you can simply list your business. So you've got advertising, animation, architecture, consultancy, so around a specific creative consultancy, craft, dance, entertainment, fashion, film, gaming, graphic design, literature, media, music, publishing, software design, theatre, TV, visual art, web design, and if there's something we've missed, other. Then this bit really is the key. Most of this form is just ticking boxes. In this part of it, we need you to give a description of your business activity in 100 words or less. And that's essentially what the focus of Sally's workshop is going to be on as well. Some people are very used to pitching in a very particular way, but as Ian has demonstrated, it's really important to be very concise about the service you're offering and about what your capabilities are and what your interests are. So this is the opportunity for you to sell your business to us and to the expert panel in terms of your validation of your application, but also to any potential clients, because remember, when the industries are looking for which clients they'll work with, this is what they'll see. I mean, obviously they can visit your website, but this is their key one point of information to know about you and what it is that you offer. So that's really the bit that you have to put the most amount of effort in. And for some people, they'll already have that off the cuff, but for some people, I know that's something that they'll need to work on in advance. We're also looking for you to let us know what skills and services you can provide. So as I've mentioned, these may be things that you do already, but there may be other services that you can provide that you can list in here. And the green just says exactly that. For this information, we're looking for you to list 2 collaborative projects that you've been involved in. Ideally, these should be at regional, national or international level, but what we're wanting them to do is to illustrate your core skill set. So let's say in that example of if you're a theatre practitioner, you would be giving examples of, in that sense, it would clearly be teamwork and giving examples of that work that you've done, but because that's your core skill set, you don't necessarily need to give examples of what is a new skill set. So if you're a theatre practitioner looking to work on team building, for example, you may not have experience in that, and that's fine. So this is just trying to capture how you've worked collaboratively. It's sort of the I play well with others section, so that's what we're sort of looking for there. And then this is an opportunity for you to list any relevant awards or publications if you've been invited to write for something, whether it's online or offline, or if you've got any awards, to list those here for us. Again, that's not an assessment criteria, that's simply just to build a picture of your organisation for a potential client. Then, as Ian has said, it's very important to mention clients that you've worked with before. It gives people a good sense of the sorts of jobs that you've worked on and your capabilities. So we'd like you to list anything between 2 and 5 clients. You don't need to give details about the project if you can simply list the client name and also ideally the client website. So if someone's not familiar with them, they can get a sense of that. If you want to list the project, in very simple terms in a couple of words, please do, but we don't need a big description here at all. So all of that information I've just spoken about will all form the basis of your entry on the Creative Directory. So as I said, this is going to be public information, so it's important to think about that. This next section, the additional information, will not be available publicly. And this is information that we're wanting to gather so that we can get a picture. I mentioned that WDC, the Creative West research, was a number of years ago. So we want to try and capture some additional information about creatives in the region. So in this section, we'll be asking, again, it's a tick the box, what your organisation type is like. And again, just to be very clear, this is not criteria based, it's simply so we can get a picture of it. If you belong to any clusters or networks, and somebody mentioned the Inishowen cluster, again, we'd love you to list those here because that gives us a sense of all of the clusters in the area. One of the things we're wanting to make sure is that we get to everybody, and obviously we have a limited budget, so we're doing our best to capture everybody. But if you belong to a cluster or a network, this is the place to list it. Even if it's national, it doesn't need to be just in the Northwest, but it'll help us capture and make sure we deal with everybody. If you can also indicate to us your VAT status, and then your turnover, and that's your turnover or your income if you're a sole trader. And again, that's in sort of fairly large criteria tranches, and you just tick the boxes and those go along. And hopefully there's loads of people individually earning over 100,000. And then the terms and conditions on the end, just to kind of take you through those to demystify them a bit. What we're trying to say is those sections 1 to 3 that I flagged, that's public information. We just want you to be really clear in signing that you know that that's public information and that it's going on the directory. And as Mary mentioned, that'll be developed into a mobile application, and we'll actively be selling that directory nationally, internationally, and specifically in Europe for you. We will treat your information carefully. We do take that very seriously, and we won't be sharing it with anybody outside of the project, particularly that additional information. Because you'll be doing this electronically, it's sufficient to just put your name in there and just to type that in. And then everything will be sent back to registration@creativestatenorthwest.com. As Mary said, the registration is open from today, and it is ongoing. But if you do want to be considered for the first round of talent vouchers, you have to be registered before the 27th of July. But as Mary said, you can continue to register. We'll continue to update the directory in a dynamic fashion. So it'll always be of benefit to you to be on there. And when the next round of vouchers comes up at the end of the year, you might be in a position where you may benefit from it. So that's the application form, and I might just quickly run through the FAQs because that might preempt any questions that you might have. Sorry, this is terrible. I'm used to using a Mac and I just can't get them easy to work. So I won't bother reading out all of these, but just so that you know that they're here. The FAQs are based on questions Mary's received through some of the information sessions she's been doing around the region, and we will develop this. So if there's questions that aren't answered, obviously it'd be great to hear those today and have them emailed in to us so we can constantly update the page. So again, that'll just reiterate what is a creative business, and we took an EU definition there, so that list that we talked about are there. As I've mentioned before, if you think you have a creative business but you don't see yourself on the list, just get in touch with us and let us know what your business is. Most of you will know, I'm sure, what a cluster is, but it's just to say that this is often something that's virtual, it's often something that's not particularly formal. It could be something like the open coffee networks. You know, it's just an illustration of how you're sort of open to working with other people and how you might be able to network and gather other people to support you if you need support in particular areas. So that's just to give you a definition of that. We've listed some clusters in the Northwest that we're aware of, but you can see that's a limited list, so that's why we'd love to get the listing from you. And I suppose this one is really an important part, because people will say, you know, this is about new approaches to working. Why do I need to tell you about previous experience? And exactly as Ian has mentioned, you know, a company gains confidence by hearing from you about your portfolio, your clients and your previous work. And as Judy has mentioned, it's difficult to assess creativity. I mean, that's something that's very difficult for SMEs to assess. So it's to try and give them some sort of a guideline. It gives them a sense of who you've worked with in the past. The important thing to remember is that in our example, and I don't know if this has been mentioned today, but in our example, the companies that are hiring you through this program will be putting up half of the money themselves. We'll be sponsoring them, but they will be putting up half of the money themselves. So, you know, like in any other formal commercial situation, they're paying you for work that you're undertaking. So it's to try and give them confidence so that they choose you to do the work. And we are specifically, you are very much open to, I think someone asked that question of what if a company thinks it needs a website and that's not really what it needs. Absolutely, what the industry will be doing is the SMEs will be identifying particular challenges for their business, and they'll be looking for creatives that can respond to those challenges and best respond to those challenges, and everybody will be taken through that process. So it is important to be open. It is the creative thinking that we want to harness, and it is about helping them to innovate through exposure to creatives like yourselves.